To respond to the crisis of student debt here in the United States, here in the middle of 2019. We're at a time where, at least among the Democrats, some serious attention is being paid by presidential contenders with this problem, led, of course, and not surprisingly, by Bernie Sanders, who advocates a cancellation, more or less, of student debts, now over $1.5 trillion worth of burdensome debt for the generation of students, and indeed for people who are now in their 50s and 60s who are still carrying that debt. There's a new bill being debated in Congress to allow students to use the bankruptcy procedures to get out of their student debt the way businesses and individuals with home mortgage debt or car payment debt or business debts, can use bankruptcy courts in that way. That has been denied to students. I want to speak about not so much the suffering that students are required to go through. They've done a good job of explaining that. People everywhere who pay attention know that this is a generation burdened with debt in a way no previous generation faced in America. People are aware that folks coming through schools with tens of thousands or sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt are postponing marriage, are postponing children, or deciding not to have either marriage and or children. They can't afford a home. The impacts on their lives, on our society, on our economy, and on the family values being faked by so many politicians is pretty well known. I want to focus on something else. The crisis of student debt is first and foremost a failure of the capitalist system. I don't want to get into a pointless debate. Is it that the cost of education is too high? Is it that the government doesn't pick up enough of a share of that, either by helping public higher education schools, or by providing scholarships, or by providing accelerated tax deductibility? There are all kinds of ways of helping. So either the price is too high, or the government isn't helping enough, or the incomes of America's parents are simply not enough, nor that of their children, to pay for this costly education. So whether it's the price, or whether it's the inadequate incomes being paid to the American people, or it's the failure of the government to fix this situation, these are all contributors. It is a system that in its different dimensions plunges families across America into a situation where the higher education is more important for having a decent life and a decent job and a decent income than ever before, less useful to that end than ever before, more expensive to that end than ever before, and therefore incurring more debt as an attempt to hold it all together than ever before. That's a failure. Why is it a failure? Well, look, every economist in the world knows, teaches, and writes that the future of any country in the world economy that is our future depends first and foremost on the quality and the quantity of the labor force. How creative are your people? How hardworking? How disciplined? How imaginative? How able to find better and cheaper ways of producing? How able to come up with new technologies, new products? It is the education system that prepares your most important contributor to the economic future of the country. For the United States not to be helping people get college educations, but making it more expensive, less affordable, more debt burdened is self-destructive. It is irrational. Yeah, it might be profitable for businesses not to pay workers enough to afford an education. It might be profitable for big corporations and the rich to evade their taxes so that the government can't help young people work their way through college. And yeah, it might be big, rich corporations and wealthy people who aren't giving to universities anymore, or universities that are paying their top officials ridiculous amounts of money so they can't provide educations to young people without charging an enormous amount. All of these aspects of capitalism have come together to be self-destructive by making it more expensive, making it unaffordable, and making it a debt disaster to go to school. American people are just as smart as anybody else. We wouldn't be self-destructive if we could solve these problems. But the way capitalism works not only creates these problems, but blocks their solution. The best the government can now do is let students use the bankruptcy courts. They should have been able to do that from day one, like all other debtors are. No, this is a society that is so driven by profit, by the ultimate bottom line of capitalism, that it is literally sacrificing its own future to hold on to the excessive level of profits for the top 1% now. To capitalism, young people in America should be saying, shame on you. You make it hard for us to become more participatory, more contributory to the future for all of us. What a crazy thing to impose on your new generation.